we can actually make these miniature human skin from scratch. These are still somatic cells that are derived from a patient's foot, and we put our cells, directly mix our cells, these fibroblasts that are growing right now on a plastic dish, mix the cells up and down in this collagen solution, and pour 3 milliliters onto this flat, empty membrane. And then we shut down our hood, shut off the blower, discard our waste, and we've completed the mitzvah of making skin in the lab. My name is Professor Jonathan Garlick. I'm professor at the School of Dentistry, the School of Medicine, and the School of Engineering. And my division that I run is called the Division of Cancer Biology and Tissue Engineering. That's where my research lab is. What really captures my imagination is what I call the magic of stem cells. Stem cells have the ability to transform the way we think about medical care because they can form and replace damaged tissues and organs. And I think that's what really captured my imagination when I realized that we could work with stem cells that could turn into heart or liver or skin or brain or nerve or kidney cells, all from cells derived from the same source. And I said, I want to try to figure out how we can use these type of cells for human therapy.
Millions of people die every year from strokes. Many who survive are left with speech problems, paralysis, and more. And now doctors are using stem cells to see if they can reverse the damage even after it occurs.
They tried out in 2 people, 2 women who were blind. They gave them embryonic stem cells, shot them into their retinas, basically, and they had visual improvements.
The amazing Brooke Ellison. She was paralyzed from the neck down at age 11. We'll get that whole story. She earned a bachelor's and master's degree from Harvard, currently a PhD candidate at Stony Brook University. What are your feelings about the stem cell question?
Oh my goodness, it's I don't even know where to start. Right now there are over 100 million people who face conditions that could potentially be cured with stem cell research.
My name is Dr. Brooke Ellison. I'm a social scientist at Stony Brook University. I've been involved in the stem cell field for 15 years now. So when I was 11 years old, I was walking home from my first day of 7th grade. I was crossing a major highway on Long Island, and I was hit by a car, which was an accident that left me paralyzed from my neck down and dependent on a ventilator to breathe. Paralysis has always been and really continues to be one of the primary disabilities that stem cell research might benefit. 90% of the diseases and conditions that people face have the potential to be treated with advances of embryonic stem cell research.
So the real question is, why is a stem cell different from all other cells? What they do is they make new cells and new tissues on demand. A human embryonic stem cell is one single cell that's derived originally from a 4-day-old human embryo. So here I was in my laboratory, really focused on studying the potency of particular stem cells derived from human embryos. And I was thinking about my next grant, my next question, my next publication. And then I had a transformative experience. I got a call from a Boston Globe reporter asking me what I thought of the fact that I was not going to be able to use my lab to study embryonic stem cells anymore. What did I think of that? And I said, what are you talking about? I had no awareness that there was even a court challenge to Obama's policy to liberalize the use of human embryonic stem cells.
A federal judge recently ruled it's illegal for government money to be spent on embryonic stem cell research. The ruling has reignited what has always been a very hot debate. Dr. James Shirley is a stem cell researcher and was a plaintiff in this lawsuit that resulted in the latest decision.
Human embryonic stem cell research has 3 problems. One of them is the research is unethical. It's unethical because embryos are living human beings, and this research knowingly leads to their injury and their death. There are alternatives such as adult stem cell research, and we shouldn't forget conventional disease research, which has been ongoing in this country for many years.
I'm James L. Shirley. I am the founder and director of the Adult Stem Cell Technology Center here in Boston. I am a career scientist, trained as a cancer cell molecular. In addition to that, I'm religious. I'm a Christian. I believe that God exists. What I found over the years is that once that statement is made, and there's no reason I have to hide it, the conversation changes. Right? What I want the public to understand is that atheists can have this complaint. Because of my position on human embryonic stem cell research being unethical, I participated in the Shirley versus Sebelius case in 2009 to 2010.
In the year 2010, there was a judge in the District Court of the District of Columbia who ruled that the use of human embryonic stem cells, exactly what I was doing in my lab for research using government money, was illegal.
Legislation says that the government cannot fund research in which human embryos are put at risk of death or injury or are injured or killed by research. And I have to say that at the start of that, I thought, finally, the public's going to hear the truth. And something that's really detrimental to us and our humanity is going to be stopped.
I was so focused on the Petri dish and so focused on my next question and my next grant and my next paper that I was missing the big picture, meaning what's happening beyond the walls of my lab in the area of the stem cell debate. That realization made me take action. The first thing I did was I educated myself. I started speaking to policy people, I started speaking to ethicists, I started speaking to people that were involved in this Shirley versus Sebelius case. And this is the way I would define the stem cell debate. So here's the tip of a pen. If you think, now the human embryo is a small ball of cells, approximately 150 cells in that little ball of cells, and that little ball of cells can fit on the tip of this pen. So there are two perspectives on the stem cell debate. If you think that that tiny embryo, that 4-day-old embryo that's sitting on the top of this pen, is an individual, is a person that has all the rights of you and I, then you fall on one side of the stem cell debate.
There are things that we will not do as a society to achieve cures for others. We will not line people up and shoot them to get parts from them to help someone else to live longer. We won't do that. And the only reason we're willing to do this is for embryos is because the public doesn't understand that they're just like you and I.
If you believe that that little ball of cells that's sitting on the tip of this pen is not a person, is not human, and is expendable, then you fall on the other side of the embryonic stem cell debate.
There's no point at which any one person can say life begins, right? There's many different mysteries and questions that need to be answered in terms of when life begins, but I know for sure that it does not begin at that point. There's no features that would represent life, right? There's nothing that would indicate what's called sentience or any kind of sensation, right? There's no neurons or neural crest or neural streak, as it's called, where an embryo can feel.
Now, my job as a scientist is not to persuade one side or the other. My job as a scientist is to explain that to the public in a way that everybody can make a choice about what they feel is the value of the human embryo, because it really is a choice that's not based on science. We can't tell you whether a 4-day-old embryo is a person or whether it's a form of life, because no scientist can really tell.
People struggle with this idea about whether or not that's a human life. All life on this planet, mammalian life, starts that way. How do you argue that they're not human? How do you argue that they're not living?
Nobody, scientists or anybody, really have the ability to say at what point life begins. And I think almost no one would say that fertilized egg just 3 to 5 days into development equals life. When we're talking about actual human beings who are suffering from devastating diseases and conditions.
In the extreme case, which I am a proponent of, there is no human embryonic stem cell research. unless we can find a way to do it without destroying the embryos.
So we need increased funding for this line of research. So right now we live in times where there's tremendous restriction on the number of grants that are afforded by the NIH, so the National Institutes of Health.
No federal funding of any human embryonic stem cell research. Because in order to get those cells, at some point, some human being was destroyed.
I think the conversation at times is stuck in dogma and stuck in people being invested in a point of view that they almost limits their ability to consider the other. So while I think that scientific dogma should be put aside, ultimately, I think that we first need to really think about what we care about the most and what we really believe in. There's something that I do, I wouldn't even call it a hobby. I think it's more than a hobby at this point, that helps me find my voice in the science conversation. So I love to do rap and hip hop. In fact, you can see from my hat that that's part of my persona. It's something that I do as part of my nature. Yeah.
I try so hard to treat disease. My brain explodes with stem cell ideas. If you come to my lab in culture all day, making tissues while you wait.
I write rap about science, about medicine. I perform to audiences, everything from kids to seniors, so they get to experience an understanding of not only what I care about, because it's in my authentic voice, but it also creates content in a genre that many more people can relate to. I feel, and I am convinced of this, that if we focus on the things that we care about the most, I believe that there is a way to find common ground. But at the same time, we need to be engaged. We need to be advocating. We need to be part of the conversation. If we're sitting back and not engaged in the conversation, then we'll never reach that point of finding common ground, because the common ground is going to have to be found through advocacy and through people having an engaged, deep, and meaningful conversation first about what they really believe in.
All I wanna do is to treat disease, learning about stem cells. Yeah, it holds the key. All I wanna do is to treat disease, learning about stem cells. It holds the key.